Welcome to the last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast, brought to you by Deetsoman Productions.
He's been hit by a car and he's kind of in repose on Adams Boulevard right now.
Say what you mean and mean what you say.
The things you think are the biggest problems you've got right now are really not that big a deal.
I can assure you that the statistical probability of death remains constant at 100%.
Oh, man.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Enjoy life.
Hey, this is Scott Townsend. Welcome back to the last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast. Today I have with me one of the smartest and brightest students, and she's been mentioned in so many podcasts up to this point, Sandra Yeager from Pennsylvania. Welcome, Sandra.
Well, thank you, Scott. Nice to be here with you.
So can I ask where in Pennsylvania?
Yes, sort of the middle of nowhere, southeastern Pennsylvania. I'm equidistant between Philly and Baltimore. Okay. And we moved here 2006. My husband was retired. I was kind of changing jobs, and we both ride horses, which we had started to do. We lived in New York City and outside of New York, and we had horses, not in the city, but at commercial barns outside the city. And we always wanted to have our own horse farm with our horses on it. So that's why we moved to this area. It's a very horsey area. So
that's cool. So maybe Philadelphia might be the closest place.
Yeah, I go to Philadelphia Airport if I have to fly out. Baltimore is pretty close too, but that airport is not as convenient. So
here's why I ask is because I spoke with Darla Wendell, and at that point she was coming from American Fork, Utah, and that was 1,172 miles away. She won the award, whatever that means, for longest distance interview. So I thought, so here, Alexa, what's the distance between Bartlesville, Oklahoma, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania?
From Bartlesville, Philadelphia is 1,269.8 miles away by car.
1,200. So you are now officially the longest distance interview we've done so far.
Well, I'm sure there'll be more.
Yeah, if we can get Jeff Blair from France, that would be
Yes, that would be great. Great.
So how are you doing? What's going on? What's going on in Sandra Yeager's life here?
Well, life is pretty good. I'm retired from what I was doing. I could go through that a little bit, but doing a lot of, as I said, we have a horse farm. So my husband and I are very involved with a fox hunting group here, which we don't kill the fox. We just ride our horses, and we have a huntsman that works with the hounds, and the hounds try to go out and pick up the scent of a fox. And then all of us riders, when they find the scent, they start to howl, and everybody gets excited, including the horses, and we start galloping and jumping over fences, and it's really exhilarating and a lot of fun. So
does someone drag a scented rag or something, or
there are drag hunts, but we're so rural that we have a lot of foxes.
Oh, okay.
So it's sometimes you have a blank day where there's nothing. But often we find 2 or 3 foxes, and I said we never kill them because they did in England way back when, because foxes were not indigenous to England, I think, and they were pests and eating all the lambs and stuff like that. So they usually will chase them, and the fox are much slyer, or they're very sly, much smarter than the hounds. And generally we chase them, and the hounds will eventually lose the scent, or they'll say, we'll put them to ground, which means they've gone into their den. And then we just celebrate the hounds for picking up the scent. So
what kind of dogs do you use?
We have ones that are called, there are several different kinds. They're hound dogs, but we call them Penmary Dells, because they're in this area. I'm sort of in an area that's very close to Delaware, Pennsylvania, Maryland.
Oh, okay.
And And so, sorry, something's on my screen, get rid of that. So they are, and what they're very good for, they're smaller than like American hounds or English foxhounds, but they have very, very long ears, which the scent, and we have a lot of woods in the area. And so that scent, I'm talking about something I feel I'm not really an expert in, but that scent really stays within those ears.
Yeah.
And so they're very good for the area that we hunt. So
I saw a picture that you posted about an early morning, getting ready, or something about an early morning fox hunt. And maybe I'll put that up on the screen here so people can see it. But and when I saw it, I was like, fox hunt, wow, that's really cool. And you guys were all dressed up in the whatever, the
Yes.
jod hoppers or whatever you call it, the big long boots, and
Yes. Well, we just started, it's sort of like our pre-season starts in August, where we start really early because it's very hot. And it's very warm for the horses and the hounds. So we start at 7 and just go out for like an hour and a half, and everybody's exhausted by then. And then by the time we get to November, when it's cold, we start our main season. And then we have our special coats, our colored coats, and our coats happen to be sort of a hunter green with a little white collar. And they're the dress, the dressing is part of it too. You have to.
Yeah, it's almost like the Kentucky Derby. People dressing
but
up.
I have a helmet on. Because helmets are very important.
Yeah. And
Especially-
go ahead.
I said, especially if you take a tumble. So.
Oh yeah. So has that ever happened?
Yes. Yeah.
I would
kind
be
of
I'd be afraid that foxes go in holes, and so I'd be afraid that my horse would step in a hole or go over a log and not quite make it, and whatever.
Well, that's happened. Now the holes, it's funny, as we follow our field master, who is trying to follow the hounds, and as someone sees a hole coming up, they'll say, "Where hole?" and point it out. Hole to the left, hole to the right. So there's all this lingo that.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Well, that would be very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any pets?
Well, I have 4 horses, and then 2 older dogs now. They're English cream retrievers. They're basically golden retrievers, but they're very white.
Yeah.
And they're wonderful dogs, but Sterling is 13 and a half and Bristol is 12. So they're getting a little old.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love them. And then we have, I had indoor cats for years, but they've since passed, and no more indoor cats anymore. They can make a mess in your house. So, but we do have barn cats.
Yeah. Very utilitarian.
Yes.
Yeah,
So that's where I get my cat loving. I'm not bringing them inside anymore.
That's what my wife says. No more inside cats. What kind of horses do you have?
Well, they're all sort of a cross between a thoroughbred and a draft.
Okay.
So some of them are actually 3 of them are warm bloods, which were crossed many years ago. So one's they're either an Irish sport horse, that's a warm blood, or a Dutch warm blood. So they're cooler. Like the thoroughbred is the hottest, and I don't ride thoroughbreds. A lot of people do, but they're very hot head, and they spook and everything, but they're very fast. And then there's the draft, which are the old work horses, and they're very cool headed. And so our horses kind of are a blend of the two. So they're athletic, like the thoroughbreds, but they're a little cooler in that they don't spook and knock you off. And so it's a good combination.
Yeah, that sounds like the horse for me. So take us back. Let's go to high school. It's graduation. Can you give us kind of a 35,000 foot view from graduation to now, the Reader's Digest version? What did Sandra Yeager do after we all got our diplomas and walked off the stage?
Right. Well, my parents, right after I graduated in June, my parents moved to LA. So, that was just on their part, my dad's job. So I didn't get back to Bartlesville as much as many other people did, but we moved to LA, but then I went to up east to Wellesley College for college, which is an all-women's liberal arts school just outside of Boston. And I studied English and math there. And then I needed to get a job. My parents said, you know, after this expensive school, you are making your own money.
Yeah.
So I went to work on Wall Street, and they had programs back then where there were 2-year programs. And I worked at Kidder Peabody for 2 years, and that's a house that's no longer around. And then you were expected to go to graduate school. So after that, I went to Harvard Business School. And so back to Boston. And then after that, went back to New York because I loved New York, and did my whole career was really in investment management. So I was being a portfolio manager, managing pension funds, mutual funds. In the end, I specialized in international equities, international stocks. So I did a lot of global traveling, and I loved it then, but I have to tell you, I don't get on a plane unless I absolutely have to now, because after you've traveled the world, you've been to Singapore 5 times, you know, it's like, oh God, I don't need to go anymore.
Yeah.
So then I retired. I had my own firm. I was in New York City for a very long time, and then moved here for a
Wait, say that
job.
again. You had your own firm?
Yes,
Okay.
when I got here to Pennsylvania, I had
That
my
went
own
by
firm.
so fast. I was like, whoa, wait a
Oh,
minute.
sorry. No, well, that was, I'm towards the end of I worked for Alliance Capital, which is Alliance Bernstein now, for 14 years, and then Morgan Stanley, and then DuPont Capital. And then I started my own firm, and I ran it for 8.5 years, and I was running institutional money. So pension funds like CalPERS and stuff like that would give me money. And part of it,
I'm shaking my head like I know what you're talking about, but I really have no idea.
Well, it was a woman-owned firm, which is important because there are very few women in the business, which is really sad. I mean, when I joined, there were more women than there are now, but I decided, after 26 years of managing other people's money, I just wanted to hang it up. And actually, I do have my toe in the business because I'm on the board of a mutual fund, Columbia Threadneedle. They're owned by Ameriprise, and on the board, we just look over, we only meet 6 or so times a year, and we look over, make sure the performance is good and what fees are being charged. And so that way, and I get paid, which is nice. So it's a way to keep my toe in the business, but not have that stress of performance. How is your portfolio doing today?
Yeah.
So
having to deliver good news and bad news.
Right. Much less stress, I would say. My sleeping is much better. I mean, especially when I was doing international, I would wake up in the middle and check my Bloomberg portfolio using Bloomberg, check what my portfolio was doing in Tokyo. That was enough to pull your hair out.
I don't think I've ever done that. I should just do that once just to say that I've done that. But
it's not worth it. It's not worth it. But I learned a lot. It gave me a chance to see the world, which was wonderful, and not on my dime,
So where all did you go? Where all did you get to go?
I went to Asia a lot, mostly Japan and Singapore, Hong Kong, China a couple times. China was just coming out, and we were able to buy stuff then, and Europe, all over Europe. I really didn't do emerging markets like Asia, but I did go to South Africa, the country. So I don't have anything on my bucket list, I guess. I like staying home.
Yeah. Did you say you ran into Alison Holmes in London or something?
Yes, I did a number of years back, because she lived there after she got her PhD or whatever, in the UK, and she worked for one of the politicians there, and she worked for the ambassador, the US ambassador also, and so I happened to be in London, and we found out about each other, and we met up, And then
That's
since
cool.
then, we saw each other at the 30th reunion. So we've kept in touch.
okay.
She now lives in California, Northern California, Humboldt State College or something like that. But
Working at Humboldt State College.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
she's taught, I think she's taught all her life, and she's written, you know, she has a specialty in politics, and it's, you know, way above my head.
Yeah. Yeah, Brett Thomason was saying something about that.
Yeah, I have to write her and tell her that you're doing this, and
Yeah.
I'll send her an email, and she'd be very interesting to talk to, I'm
That
sure.
would be a good one. Yeah. What's the first thing you think of when thinking about College High? First thing.
Oh, I guess I think of the classes and the teachers, because just like everybody said, we got a great education. I mean, it was a public school in a small town in Oklahoma, and I was so prepared for college. So I thank, you know, I'm very grateful that I went to College High because it was a great education. And then there were lots of activities. I mean, I was involved with the speech team,
Yeah.
and I was not an athlete, but I did do speech competitions and did plays, and it was
Singing
just
Valentine.
I don't know what that was. I saw that in your book. I thought, what? I don't know what I was doing then. But and we had great friends, and I really enjoyed going back for the 30th reunion because I really connected, and Facebook really helps too. It connects you with other people that you have a lot in common with now. But it was a great place to grow up, and it was kind of a safe place, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was a little bit of a rebel my junior and senior year, at least, well, maybe only to me and my mom and my mother.
So tell us about the Rebel
Oh,
Yeager.
I'm not going to say too much about that. Probably did things I shouldn't have done, but
Didn't we all?
yes, but at least I got it out of my system, and it was in a small town, so no harm. I mean, if I were in a big city, you know, that might not have been
Yeah.
good. And by the time I got to college, I was like, okay, that's over now. My parents are paying a lot of money for this education. You better
Right.
get your act together.
Who's the first person you think of when you think of College High? I'm sure I come top of mind, but you know, besides me, I'm just kidding. Who's the first person you think of when you think of College High?
Well, I have to say my boyfriend, Grady Wilson. I dated
Grady
him.
Wilson.
He was he was 2 years older than we were. So he was a senior, and then he went to OU, and I still dated him. And we kind of keep in touch, but I spent, you know, a lot of time with him, obviously.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
Allison Holmes, we spent a lot of time together. We had the same interests. And a lot of people on the speech team, like John Sayer, who would be very interesting.
So what's John doing these days? I haven't.
He's in New York. He's in New York and is an attorney, a very successful attorney. I got this all from Allison, I think. I think he went to Columbia Law School. You know, he's very smart.
Yeah.
And then Joe Wallace was in the speech. I don't know what he's doing now. I haven't kept in touch with him. But so yeah, what was your main question? What did I think of? I just
Who's the first person?
Oh, first person. Oh, well, of course, was my boyfriend.
Right. That's great.
It didn't last. So, you know, we go.
It's very rare that those do, you know.
Yeah.
Is that true? My brother dated his, she was 15, he was 18, I think. And they married and they're still together.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's
It
great.
happens from time to time.
It does happen. It does happen.
What's one of the biggest changes you've seen in your lifetime? You know, over the last, let's just take it from graduation to now.
Oh man, I'm really stumped here. I'm trying to think of a positive change. I mean, I guess, yeah. Well, I said, you know, the positive things are the way we all change as human beings. And I think we talked about this earlier, we become closer to each other, and are not so critical of each other. And
Mhm.
that's great. I am a little worried about, I mean, maybe because I'm old, the changes social media is like,
Yeah.
and I'm a little worried that we don't spend enough time with each other. And then COVID obviously has changed that, but yeah, I guess I worry about the next generation, but then, my parents worried about us. So
Right, yeah.
it's just, I just hope we all try to get along and
What
try
is
to
it about the next generation that you're concerned with?
well, I guess I think I am worried about social media and how that affects their brains and how much time they're spending on it, and not interacting with people, because in the end we're
Right.
humans and we like social interaction.
Mhm.
And I think that discourse, this is really terrible for me to say, but discourse has gotten very, I mean, I'm not on Twitter, God forbid if I ever were on Twitter, but it's become a little uncivilized and canceling people out. I guess that's maybe those are just shocks to me. So maybe as I'm getting older, closer to 60, I'm finding that I'm thinking what my parents did, what is this younger generation doing?
Yeah. You're listening to
So-
Elvis? Oh my gosh. Rolling Stones. Yeah, every generation is the parents' nightmare.
Yes, I guess the biggest shock is I'm becoming more like my mother.
I would agree. I think social media is not, I hear people say that. I would take that one step further and say it's just a tool. It's the people that are using it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the people that are using it have, when Twitter first came out in 2007, 2008, I was all over it. And I got written up in books and magazines and in the Wall Street Journal about my use of Twitter back a long time ago, because I thought, wow, this is so cool. We can help each other. We can crowdsource. We can all these positive things that now we, if something bad happened, you can reach out through Twitter to find out if there, the plane that fell in the Hudson, landed in the Hudson. The first really viral Twitter photo was those people standing on the wings, the guy on the ferry that took the picture and posted it on Twitter. These kind of things helped people stay in contact, and it was a really great idea. And I was so pro Twitter and social media because it all brings people together. So many people, so many bad actors have gotten into the scene, and it just has destroyed it. It just makes people just want to walk away from it.
Yeah,
It's
so you take
unfortunate.
breaks. I mean, you're right. Facebook has really connected me with people that I haven't seen for a long time, and it's wonderful. And those that I don't want to hear from anymore, I just unfollow. But
Right.
it's good to pick up a book. What I really miss is reading the newspaper, like the Wall Street Journal, the real Wall Street Journal. Now
The
I
big
have to
one.
read-
The big one. Remember how big it used to be, and now they've shrank. It's shrunk, and it doesn't even feel like a newspaper anymore.
And now I just read it on my iPad, which is probably bad for my eyes, but
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you on that one. When they changed the dimensions of the newspaper, that I was really upset.
Thank you for listening to the last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast. And we'll be right back after this.
Pop's Daylight Donuts, man, they've got the best tasting donuts, sausage wraps, pastries in Northeast Oklahoma. And also, if you'll tell the staff there, hey, Scott Townsend said to give me a large spicy pig, they'll give you a free large spicy sausage wrap. But you have to tell them Scott Townsend sent you. So tell them, hey, Scott Townsend told me to tell you to give me a large spicy pig. So there's the offer. there's the call to action. So go to Pop's Daylight Donuts, say hi to Mark for me, and yeah, go to Pop's Daylight Donuts and get you some. The other sponsor is Cast-A-Fly Outdoor Adventures.
Adventure. That's where it begins. We look to create and document our moments in time while embracing the majestic wonder and beauty of the great outdoors. Our quest is to explore the back roads of the Ozarks, camping, fishing, and just getting lost. Refresh your spirit and join us on our next adventure.
Paul and his crew invite you to subscribe to the Cast-A-Fly Outdoor Adventures YouTube channel. What would you hope classmates would say about you if you weren't around?
Oh my God. I could hope they'd say I was a nice person, you know, that I lived my life to my fullest, and that I was a nice person. I wouldn't want to be a nasty, mean person. I mean, I was competitive when I was young, probably too much, but in the end, yeah, you know, I'm sort of into mindfulness meditation and stuff like that. And a lot of the Buddha teaching is like, you know, think about yourself on your deathbed. I mean, it sounds really morbid, but you do think about what's really important. What's really important. And I'm still alive. I'm not ashes yet. You know, what can I do to fulfill the rest of my life? You know, and that sort of stuff. So So I'm hoping people think I'm nice and caring, because that's what I want to be known as.
You know,
Simple.
like Butch said, you know, nobody gets out of this alive. You know,
No,
it's a
no,
100%
we're all-
guarantee that everyone's going to be checking out at some point. So you might
Well,
as well think
that's-
about it. So
yeah.
you can
Well,
kind of help.
I'm sure he really thought about it more than we did. He wasn't just meditating.
Yeah, it was the real deal. Yeah.
My gosh.
So Sandra, you know, I've been asking a lot of people about who was their favorite teacher, what was their favorite class. Who was your favorite teacher in high school?
By far, George Love.
And why is that?
I took world history and American history from him. He was an excellent teacher. And just like Brett said, he really prepared me for college, because you had no textbook. He just got up there and lectured for an hour, and you took notes. And so how you did on the test was basically whether you took great notes or not. And I learned a ton from him. Very interesting guy, and I really loved world history. That was the best. But both world history and American history. And then I would also say Dan Simmons, English professor, English teacher. You know, first introduction to Shakespeare, and
Mindy Goodell mentioned something about him reading Beowulf to the class. Do you remember?
Oh, yes, we did. Yes. Oh, God. Yes, he was excellent. I mean, we had such great teachers. And then, of course, John Baird, the math teacher.
You were a part of the John Baird Society, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what we did. I guess I just took all the math classes with him, but I mean, I was very prepared, because when I went to Wellesley, I was going to be an English major, which I ended up being. But then I was able to skip a couple of the math classes, given I took a test, and I took one math class, and then I thought, well, I'll stop and I'll pursue English. But then I missed math so much that semester that I actually became a math major also. Oh. And I think it was John Baird that started that love.
That's cool. Hey, there is one picture in the yearbook, and I'll end with this, the Martin's department store. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes. That's when we did those ads, right?
Yeah. Where was Martin's department store?
I don't know.
I'm trying to remember.
You live there now. I don't know where.
Well, it's not here anymore. I don't think it's here anymore. Where? I can't even think of, was it in Eastland or was it downtown or?
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, especially since I didn't go back a lot after I graduated, because my home wasn't there. So
if anybody's watching or listening and you know where Martin's was, leave a comment down below and let us know where Martin's.
I was holding a suitcase or something.
Yeah.
With
I
with
think you-
Leslie Schmoots, who was, and
Was it-
she came our senior year. She was there our senior year.
I wonder whatever happened to her.
I think I found through Facebook she might be living in California. I know she went to OU, and I think she may be living in California. And she and Terry White also was a friend of mine, and I think Terry is now in California too.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. What kind of car did you drive?
I drove a Pontiac Firebird. It was bright blue. My brother, I had an older brother who was 2 years older, and we got it used for him because the car that he drove was some, gold big and Chevy Impala. It was just ready to die there. And so my parents got him, and then for me, a used Firebird, Pontiac Firebird. I don't even know if they make them anymore. I mean, it's kind of like a cheap looking or cheap Camaro.
Does it have the bird on the engine, on the hood?
I think it might have. I mean, I mean, I didn't have any decals or anything.
Oh,
like
okay.
that. But it was wheels, and those were important in Bartlesville because how else would you get around? I mean, taking the bus was my sophomore year. I mean, I would drive with my brother, but then sometimes he had to stay extra or I had to stay extra, and then having to take the bus, God forbid, in high school, it's so embarrassing.
Yeah. When you were in high school, what were the things that you guys did for fun?
Well, I guess it was like everybody else. I mean, we went to the canteen, we went to the one movie theater, went to each other's homes. I guess that's, and probably had some 3.0 beer. I cannot drink beer to this day.
Oh my gosh. It's interesting that you say you went places because kids these days probably wouldn't say that. They would, they don't go places to have fun. They stay at home and play video games or.
Right. I know. Like you had to go out.
You had to go out or there was no contact.
Right. Absolutely. And I guess the canteen was the best place, or else we'd meet at McDonald's. I remember meeting at McDonald's a lot.
Yeah. Going up and down Frank Phillips.
Yeah. So that's, and then I guess what I did also was because I was in speech class, we had a lot of tournaments on the weekends. So we go to tournaments, and that was always fun because and Robert Touchstone was our speech coach, and he was fabulous. He was a load of fun. He would drive us in the van to Muskogee or wherever, and he was always dipping. And I remember I was like, oh, but a lot of people did that.
What's the as from a news standpoint, what's the biggest news story you remember as far back as you can go? This can go back as far as whatever. What's the first major news story that you remember that kind of had an impact on you, or just remember?
I guess maybe in high school I was kind of sheltered. It was more in college. I think the first thing was I don't know why I think about this, the shuttle blowing up. Because I remember walking into, I was taking this French literature class. It was in English, and I went into the professor's office to talk to him, and he just looked at me and said, the shuttle just blew up. And I think that was, I remember that. I remember where I was. because we weren't born when Kennedy was.
Right. I was, but I was
Okay.
3 weeks
You don't
before it happened.
remember.
Yeah.
And then of course 9/11, but that's, that was, I wasn't in New York. I was living in New York at the time, but I happened to be in Tokyo, and we found out then, and I spent the whole night, because it happened at 9 a.m. and it was 9 o'clock at night, Tokyo. And I spent the whole night watching, the television and trying to call my husband, who happened to work in New York that day. And I was trying to reach him, and I remember it took hours to get him on the phone because all the phones were
Jammed up.
And that was a horrible, horrible experience. But I have to say, it brought people together. I mean,
Mhm.
I wish we could go back to, the days after 9/11, like 9/12, because especially New Yorkers, I mean, they're tough, but then they care
Mhm.
for each other, and all the firemen and all the policemen that went running
Yeah.
into those towers. And, and I know people that died. I mean, they weren't close friends, but there were a lot of, people in the investment business in those towers. And they unfortunately were above where the plane hit. So, that was, so anyways, I don't mean to. So that was another thing that affected my life, but much later in life.
Right. I remember those two incidences. I think people can probably more than likely will remember where they were when those things happened. I know where I was when the Challenger that blew up,
Yeah.
and where I was on 9/11. As a matter of fact, on 9/11, I went to Tulsa that day, and I was supposed to go, and I went to the Williams Tower, which was designed by the same architect that designed the World Trade Center.
Okay, right.
So on the radio, you're hearing, it first came out that, a small plane had hit the
Yes,
Trade
that's what
Center.
everybody thought.
And then the next, 30 minutes later, it's like they're getting reports, and the plane keeps getting bigger, and the hole keeps getting bigger, and blah, blah, blah. And so I got to Tulsa. I'm in the Williams Center. I went up to, I don't know what floor I was on, 22nd, 23rd, whatever. So I walked up, and so then by then it was that it had hit the building and blown up. I hadn't seen any pictures yet. And so I walk up to the glass as I'm looking out over the Tulsa skyline. I walk right up to the glass wall in a building that's identical to the World Trade Center, just on a smaller scale. And I thought, so if a plane's if I see like a airliner coming towards me, all I would do, I would just turn around and run to the center of the building.
Yeah.
And then when I got home and I saw what really happened, yeah, that's not gonna help anything. But it was just hard to wrap your head around how monumental, how mammoth, it was just words can't even describe.
Right. I mean, I still have newspapers, because the New York Times would put out, I still have a newspaper, and they had all the pictures of all the people that had died in the towers, and I still have that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so.
Same with the Challenger. I remember my aunt telling me, and so we turned on the TV and saw that all happen. That's crazy. But so now the last question I always ask everybody, you probably know it. You're going back in a time machine, and it's 1982, and you're at Sandra Yeager's graduation, and you see her walk off the stage, and you walk up to her, and knowing then what you know now, what would you tell what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Well, there are two things. First, I would say, slow down, stop trying to grow up so quickly, stop trying to be an adult so quickly, because you have a long time to be an adult.
Right.
So enjoy your youth, because it goes by quickly. But the second thing is something I would tell my 10-year-old self, I would tell my 25-year-old self, my 35-year-old self, even my 45-year-old self, is stop moving the goalposts. And I guess this is because I'm a type A person, I'd always have a goal, and I was like, oh, if I could just achieve this, then everything would be great. And so you achieve it and you're happy for a day, but then there's something else you have to do. And, you keep doing that, and it doesn't make for a very happy existence. So I would say just stop moving them, and just enjoy what you're doing and recognize what you've done, and don't be so worried about the next goalpost.
let me talk about that just for a second, because I have some questions
Yeah.
about that. You set up a goal. You're going to accomplish something, whether it's career or family or whatever. You hit the goal, you go through your systems and you hit your goal, and right on, you made it. Isn't it okay to set up another goal afterwards?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. 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 I think so. I mean, otherwise we'd all be deadbeats.
Yeah.
But I think that, at least for me, and I was talking to my 18-year-old self. Yes, it's good to have goals. And that's very good. But I think I got so anxious from it and got a lot of anxiety from it, and then sometimes things don't work out, and then you're just, then the fall is really, and you look back and you say, why was I, so worried about that?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's, it starts in high school with the test, the math test, and then in college, which essay would you get your grade on? And then did you get the job? And then did you get the promotion? And then did you, and you sometimes you just have to enjoy it. I mean, yes, have goals, but don't be so paranoid about them, I guess. I mean, I've had to really breathe and
bring it down.
Yes, because you can be on this treadmill.
Yeah.
The little squirrel.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're 80 years old and you're still on this treadmill. It's like, how did that happen?
So how do you be in the moment?
Yeah, you have to remind yourself meditation helps you, but just think about, look around and say, wow, it's really a nice day today. Or yes, I did a good job on that. I'm not going to worry about, what I have to do next. And I think most important is being grateful for the people you love. I mean, like, I'm always grateful that I have a wonderful husband, and we've been married almost 30 years, and we have a great marriage, and we have fun together. And it's just appreciating that, because he's a little older than I am. So I know as Butch said, we're all going to be dust in the wind, I say. So
that's good.
That's a philosophy I'm trying to, and now that I'm not working, it's easier. I mean, it's harder when you're on the career role and you're competing, and
right.
And they're nasty people. Sometimes they're nasty people out there, and you just have to
learn how to deal with those.
Yes, learn how to, and just put them out of your mind or something.
Yeah, so much to learn, so much to experience. And I told somebody this the other day, we should show these series of interviews to the 2020 class, and say, here, this is what we would tell you. I know you won't listen, but
right. They'll say, oh, those old farts.
Well, what final thoughts from Sandra Yeager to the last graduating class of College High?
Well, I hope we have a reunion. I know my brother just went to his reunion. He was 80, and I guess 80 and 81 did theirs together, because the 80 they had to cancel with COVID.
Yeah.
So they did and I saw all the pictures on Facebook, and I have friends from that class, and it looks like they had a great time. And so I'm hoping that we can have a good reunion and get back and together and see people and just stay in touch and just enjoy each other's company.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, our Christmas card list should expand this year.
Yes.
I should after this is all over with, I should have a lot more addresses of Christmas cards to send out. So
well, we need your address too. So
yeah, I'll put that out there. Anyway, well, I think that's about it. Yeah, I think the reunion, I sent out a message to Kathy Clear yesterday, actually, asking her about the status. and told her if she wanted to come on the show and kind of give everybody an update as far as what's going on, that'd be great. You know, she
So she's
wanted
the
me.
one.
I
She's
think
working on it?
so. I think
Okay.
so. And she wanted to know if I wanted to be on a committee. I was like, no, I don't want to be on a committee.
Oh,
But
come on.
no. But I said, but I would have you on this show, and you can tell everybody what's going on. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
that could be my contribution, I guess.
yes, that would be very nice.
Yeah.
I look forward to 2022, and hopefully COVID variants are in our past.
Right, a thing of the past. How did you guys deal with that last year? What was that like for you guys? You haven't had it, have you? Or did you have it? Or
Well, to tell you the truth, I think my husband and I had it. But this was way back when, like January, and we were both in New York City at a big fox hunting ball at the Pierre Hotel with over 300 people there, all decked out and everything, but massively together. And then from there, I took a train to Boston because I had a board meeting. And I came back with a really bad cough and a fever. I mean, and that was it. Nothing else. It was weird because nothing else happened. I didn't have, usually I get a full nose, but I had a fever and a cough, and then my husband had it. Then we got over it. And but then I even got tested for antibodies, and they said, no, you don't have it. But those antibody tests aren't great.
yeah.
But actually living where I live now, I'm in the middle of nowhere. It's a good place to live during COVID. I mean, New York City, oh my God, I have friends in New York City. And I mean, not only was it, I went back up there once because my hairdresser used to live there, and he finally retired and moved away. So I had to find another one. But I went up there, in June of last year, and it was weird. I drove empty. I went into a Starbucks to get something to eat, and they wouldn't even let me eat in there. And I had this mask on. I'm trying to eat my bagel while I'm walking around the empty streets of New York. and it's gotten even worse because of the crime. I mean, friends of mine tell me it's just terrible. I mean, I'm really looking forward to this new Democrat who won the primary, because I think he'll be a vast improvement on de Blasio. I'm sorry, that's my only political statement of the day. But New York is. I mean, I feel so much for that town, and not only has COVID, but crime has been a problem. And
Yeah, I see a lot
so
that's going on.
where I live is great.
Yeah.
And horseback riding, great, because you're 6 feet apart. So
At least.
it didn't affect me as much. So it was. Yeah, so I felt I really appreciated where I live now, even though my internet's not great all the time.
No, Bartlesville's kind of the same way. I mean, Bartlesville's had their problems with COVID, but for the most part, me personally, I've been in this studio for the last year doing interviews and podcasts and working on my podcast, and I've been kind of personally just sequestered just because I've got so much to do here, and I don't get out a lot. So that's
Right.
Bartlesville's been a nice place to be.
That's good.
Well, Sandra, I really appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us and bringing us up to speed. And, if anybody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch with you? If any Wildcatters out there, Facebook or email?
Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm also I'm on LinkedIn,
Oh,
and you have my email. You could give it to someone.
Okay. All right.
And I will contact Allison, because I think
do that.
A great person to have on.
Yeah. Well, for Sandra Yeager, this is Scott Townsend. Thanks for listening to the last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.
The last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast is a Deetsoman Production. For more episodes, visit the Last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 YouTube channel, listen on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.